sequence for putting on personal protective equipment, also known as PPE. The first thing you would do is don your gown. Fully cover torso from neck to knees, arms to end of wrist, and wrap around the back. Next, fasten in back of neck and waist. Second, you would don mask or respirator. Secure ties or elastic bands at middle of head and neck. Fit flexible band to nose bridge. Fit snug to face and below chin. Fit check respirator. Third, don goggles or face shield. Place over face and eyes and adjust to fit. Last, don gloves. Extend to cover risk of isolation gown. Use safe work practices to protect yourself and limit the spread of contamination. Always keep hands away from face, limit surfaces touched, change gloves when worn or heavily contaminated, and perform hand hygiene. How to safely remove personal protective equipment, also known as PPE. To remove gown and gloves. Gown, front and sleeves, and the outside of gloves are contaminated. If your hands get contaminated during gown or glove removal, immediately wash your hands or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Grasp the gown in the front and pull away from your body so that the ties break, touching outside of the gown only with gloved hands. While removing the gown, fold or roll the gown inside out into a bundle. As you are removing the gown, peel off your gloves at the same time, only touching the inside of the gloves and gown with your bare hands. Place the gown and gloves into an infectious waste container. To remove goggles or face shield. Outside of goggles or face shield are contaminated. If your hands get contaminated during goggle or face shield removal, immediately wash your hands or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Remove goggles or face shield from the back by lifting headband and without touching the front of the goggles or face shield. If the item is reusable, place in designated receptacle for reprocessing. Otherwise, discard in an infectious waste container. Removing mask or respirator. Front of mask or respirator is contaminated. Do not touch. If your hands get contaminated during mask or respirator removal, immediately wash your hands or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Grasp bottom ties or elastics of the mask or respirator, then the ones at the top, and remove without touching the front. Discard in an infection waste container. Remember, wash hands or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer immediately after removing all personal protective equipment, also known as PPE. Perform hand hygiene between steps if hands become contaminated and immediately after removing all personal protective equipment, also known as PPE.